So here's the big picture on job order costing. Look at this. Look at this diagram here. With a job order cost, what we're going to do is accumulate all the costs of manufacturing first. Okay, so this accumulation process involves buying your materials, paying your labor for your factory workers, and paying for overhead type costs. Depreciation and utilities on your factory, and property taxes on your factory, and supervisor's salary, stuff like that. So this accumulation is incurring of all the costs. All right, overall, for all of the jobs you're doing. And then you know, there's a process of moving those costs that we have to go through before a company can really figure out what total costs are kind of assigned to each job. So after we've got all of our costs accumulated in the manufacturing cost accounts, you're going to find accounts for raw materials, for factory labor, and for overhead. We're going to assign those costs to work in process inventory. This is the inventory account where costs will reside when the manufacturing process is in process. Then, when goods are finished, we move those costs out of work in process inventory and into finished goods inventory. This is where those costs will sit until the goods are sold. And then when the goods are sold, the matching principle says you match expenses to revenues. So when the goods are sold, we'll move those costs out of finished goods inventory and into cost of goods sold. All right, so that's the big picture of what this entire chapter is doing. All right, accumulate costs in all of our manufacturing costs that we learned about in chapter 14, and then assign those costs to WIP, and then finished goods, and then cost of goods sold upon sale. So this is looking at T accounts and how this would actually happen. Materials, labor, and overhead all have accounts here. And we make T accounts to look at all of these, kind of give a picture of the whole process. When you buy materials, all right, when you pay for factory labor, and when you pay for overhead costs, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's kind of a picture of the accumulation entries. You can see right here, accumulation entries. Buying materials, paying for labor, and incurring factory overhead. And actually, I said 4 and 5. I kind of misspoke there. 4 and 5, these are these have to do with indirect materials and indirect labor, and that's kind of a separate process. Those costs are incurred as part of factory labor and material purchases, but then we'll see in a few minutes how those costs don't go directly into WIP. They first go into this overhead account, and then overhead gets applied into work in process. So I'm going to continue by talking more about this on the next slide.